G'day everyone and welcome back to the 39 Steps. Where we left off, we had stayed at an inn and convinced the young innkeeper that we were having a major adventure. And also we decoded Scudder's book. So yes, next chapter, having decoded Scudder's book, Hannay now has all the facts. If only he can remain hidden until the second week of June. Alright. A pack of lies. Here we go. Let's get it on. Tuesday the 26th of May 1914, The Inn, Scotland. Dun 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 dun. Painting pictures a little bit off center. I can hear a car. Ooh. The next morning I witnessed from my room the arrival of 2 constables and a sergeant. They put their car in a coach house under the innkeeper's instructions and entered the house. 20 minutes later, I saw from my window a second car come across the plateau from the opposite direction. It did not come up to the inn, but stopped 200 yards off in the shelter of a patch of wood. I noticed that its occupants carefully reversed it before leaving it. My plan had been to lie hid in my bedroom and see what happened. I had a notion that if I could bring the police and my other more dangerous pursuers together, something might work out of it to my advantage. But now I had a better idea. Ooh. What do we got here? Okay, right. Okay, so we need to go. Ooh. Okay, thank you. Okay. Open. Oh, this is cool. Oh, he's going to steal the car. I stole gently out onto the plateau. The wind seemed to bring me the sound of angry voices. Okay. Blackstone in Scotland. Blackstone in England, 39 steps. We need to find who Blackstone is. Hmm. There we go. So that's what was in Scudder's notebook. Very interesting. On the bare moor, I was at the aeroplane's mercy. My only chance was to get to the leafy cover of the valley. Then came a thick wood, where I slackened my speed. Suddenly I heard the hooting of another car, and realized upon my horror that I was almost upon a couple of gate posts through which a private road debouched on the highway. I clapped on my brakes, but my impetus was too great. I did the only thing possible and ran slap into the hedge on the right. Oh. Not ideal. A branch of hawthorn had got me in the chest, lifted me up and held me, while a ton or two of expensive metal slipped below. Wow, he got lucky. Slowly that thorn let me go. As I scrambled to my feet, a hand took me by the arm, and I found myself looking at a tall young man. He plucked out a watch and studied it. Yes, of course, we're a free trader. We've traded anything. Yes. He patted my shoulders and hurried me into his car. We presently drew up before a comfortable-looking shooting box, and he ushered me indoors. Nice house. First, he flung half a dozen of his suits before me, for my own had been pretty well reduced to rags. I selected a loose blue serge, which differed most conspicuously from my former garments, and borrowed a linen collar. Then he hailed me to the dining room. I had very few notions about free trade, but I saw no other chance of getting what I wanted. At my words, the cares of the ages slipped from his shoulders. He lent me a big driving coat, and never troubled to ask why I had started on a motor tour without possessing an ulster. Okay. After our first political engagement, this will be fun, hey? As we slipped down the dusty roads, the young man poured into my ears the simple facts of his history. Sir Harry. So this is Sir Harry. He knew about horses and jawed away about the Derby entries, and he was full of plans for improving his shooting. Very good. Childhood. Sir Harry was orphaned at an early age and was brought up by his uncle, who was a member of the British cabinet. The young man today. He had gone round the world after leaving Cambridge, and then, being short of a job, his uncle had advised politics. Yes, because, just what you need in politics is people that are incompetent and have no skills. I digress. But he had no preference in parties. He was Liberal because his family had always been Whigs. His uncle pulled a few strings and posted Harry in Tweedale as the Liberal candidate, without any hope of him winning over his Conservative constituents. Aha! Altogether, a very clean, decent, callow young man. The radical candidate. Dum dum dum. Okay. The radical candidate. So Harry's pickle turns out to Hannay's advantage, as he makes friends in high places. Excellent. Well, let's go to the political meeting, shall we? Tuesday, 26th of May, 1914. Masonic Hall, Brattleburn. I wonder if we have to do any secret handshakes to get in here. Enter. Okay. The hall had about 500 in it, women mostly, a lot of bald heads, and a dozen or two young men. The chairman was a weaselly minister with a reddish nose. He lamented on Crumpleton's absence, soliloquized on his influenza, and gave me a certificate as a trusted leader of Australian thought. There were 2 policemen at the door, and I hoped they took note of that testimonial. Then Sir Harry started. In a queer way, I liked the speech. You could see the niceness of the chap shining out behind the muck which he had been spoon-fed. He had about a bushel of notes from which he read, and when he let go of them, he fell into one prolonged stutter. Every now and then he remembered a phrase he had learned by heart, straightened his back, and gave it off like Henry Irving. The next moment he was bent double, crooning over his papers. Peace and reform. He said that but for the Tories, Germany and Britain would be fellow workers in peace and reform. I thought of the little black book in my pocket. A giddy lot Scudder's friend cared for peace and reform. The German menace. He talked about the German menace and said it was all a Tory invention to cheat the poor of their rights and keep back the great flood of social reform. But that organised Labour realised this and laughed the Tories to scorn. Okay. The British Navy. He was all for reducing our Navy as a proof of our good faith, and then sending Germany an ultimatum telling her to do the same or we would knock her into a cocked hat. Okay. Yes. Concerning. I mightn't be much of an orator, but I was 1,000% better than Sir Harry. I simply told them all I could remember about Australia, all about its Labour Party and emigration and universal service, praying there should be no Australians there. I doubt if I remembered to mention free trade, but I said there were no Tories in Australia, only Labour and Liberals. Which is technically the truth. What he's the difference there is that Liberals in Australia are the Conservative Party and Labour is the Left Party. Anyway, and I started in to tell them the kind of glorious business I thought could be made out of the empire if we really put our backs into it. Altogether, I fancy I was rather a success. The minister didn't like me, though. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sounds like a plan. Back at Sir Harry's, we had a hot supper and then drank grog. The time had come for me to put my cards on the table, and I saw by this man's eye that he was the kind you can trust. I blinked no detail. He was looking at me with bright, steady eyes. Ooh. I took the hunting knife and did the old Mashona trick of tossing it in the air and catching it in my lips. Ah. He sat down at the table and wrote to my dictation. Oh, a letter appears. Dear Uncle somebody or other. Here we go. Show text. Dear Walter, I hope this letter finds you well, and I must apologize for not being in touch for such a long while. I'm finding all my time taken up with this political business, even to the detriment of my fishing. Anyway, on to more important matters. Without sounding overly enigmatic, I'm writing you to say that if a man called Twisden happens to make your acquaintance before the 15th of June this year, it would be to your benefit to treat him kindly, despite what he may look like. This chap will prove his bona fides by passing the words Blackstone and whistling Annie Lorraine. Listen carefully to him, dear uncle. He has something to say that might just wake you up. Cheerio and happy hunting, Harry. Huh. Very good. He did or promised to do all these things. I shaved off the remnants of my mustache and got inside an ancient suit of what I believe is called heather mixture. The map gave me some notion of my whereabouts and told me the two things I wanted to know. Where the main railway line to the south could be joined, and what were the wildest districts near at hand. Cool. He awakened me from my slumbers in the smoking room armchair and led me blinking into the starry night. This is not good. Tool shed. Okay. An old bicycle was found in a tool shed and handed over to me. Collected bicycle. Very good. All right. The hills. I pedalled diligently up the steep road of hill gravel till the skies grew pale with morning. New event, run to the hills. All right. Well, let's plunge on. Up into the hills. Run to the hills. Wednesday, 27th of May, 1914. Pebbleshire, Scotland. Beautiful countryside. I sat down and took stock of my position. And then it started to rain, of course, because there was no cover from a torment. Oh, there was no cover for a tomtit in those bold green places. Observations from a hill. There might be a chance on the moors to the right or left. Found. My enemies had located me, and the next thing would be a cordon around me. I didn't know what force they could command, but I was certain it would be sufficient. Escape. The aeroplane had seen my bicycle, and we concluded that I would try to escape by road. Okay. Then I climbed to a knoll which gave me a view of the two valleys. At other times I would have liked the place, but now it seemed to suffocate me. The free moorlands were prison walls, and the keen hill air was the breath of a dungeon. I tossed a coin, heads right, tails left. Then I found the roadman. He looked at me with a fishy eye. The plight of the road mender was a difficult one. Breaking up stones and laying them across miles of Scottish tracks was a tough job indeed. Oh man. He was a wild figure, about my size, but much bent, with a week's beard on his chin and a big pair of horn speckles. His trouble was clear enough. Then I had an inspiration. I was directed by a waving finger to a cottage by the stream. He stared at me blankly. Then, as the notion dawned on his fuddled brain, his face broke into a vacant, drunken smile. I borrowed his speckles and filthy old hat, stripped off coat, waistcoat, and collar, and gave him them to carry home. I borrowed too the foul stump of a clay pipe as an extra property. He indicated my simple tasks, and without more ado set off at an amble bedwards. Very good. Then I set to work to dress for the part. I opened the collar of my shirt. It was a vulgar blue and white check, such as ploughmen wear, and revealed my neck as brown as any tinker's. I rubbed a good deal of dirt also into the sunburn of my cheeks. My boots did not satisfy me, but by dint of kicking amongst the stones I reduced them to granite-like surface, which marks a roadman's footgear. I broke one of the bootlaces and retied it in a clumsy knot, and loosened the other so that my thick grey socks bulged over the uppers. I bit and scraped my fingernails till the edges were all cracked and uneven. The men I was matched against would miss no detail. I rolled up my sleeves, and there was a forearm which might have been a blacksmith's, sunburnt and rough with old scars. A roadman's eye would no doubt be a little inflamed, so I contrived to get some dust in both of mine, and by dint of vigorous rubbing produced a bleary effect. Excellent. The sandwiches Sir Henry had given me had gone off with my coat, but the Roman lunch tied up in the red handkerchief was at my disposal. I lit up the bundle again and put the paper conspicuously beside it. On I went, trundling my loads of stone with the heavy step of the professional. Soon I grew warm, and the dust on my face changed into a solid and abiding grit. Clearly my get-up was good enough for the dreaded surveyor. New event, the roadman. All right. Well, there we go. We're going to leave the episode here. The next episode is Roadside Deception. And I want to thank you all for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode of the 39 Steps, please remember to leave a like, thumbs up, all that good stuff. If you're new to the channel and want to see more, we're about halfway through. Please subscribe and hit the notification icon, and comments. Please feel free to leave comments because your support is phenomenal and greatly, greatly appreciated. So, thanks again for joining me, and until next time, ladies.